Novel Navigator. Chapter 201, Fifth Generals. The Crimson Hound's banner flapped against the wind of the spring. The mercenary street was as busy as always, and there were hundreds of guilds lining up the road. With 100 other guilds, Crimson Hound looked like just any ordinary guild, and it wasn't eye-catching for bystanders. It had already been around 7 months since they came to the Ebon Reach, and they had struggled to make a name for themselves. An incident that happened beyond the wall a while back was a big setback for the guild, and they were still trying to recover from it. At the current moment, the front door closed because of the wind, but then a person opened it and stepped inside with a backpack hanging over his broad shoulder. He looked around the guild building with a smile on his face. It looked like he was quite impressed and pleased. Adam then noticed the receptionist area. As the receptionist, a young woman with long blonde hair seemed to be occupied by something, not even looking in his direction. With his strong fingers, he tapped on the receptionist desk to get her attention. "Excuse me, miss. If you want to arrange an appointment, take a paper and pen from there," she said while lazily pointing towards the corner of the desk, where there was a stack of papers and a few pens. "I am not here for an appointment, I am here to meet Digby. If you want to meet the guild master, you'll need to arrange an appointment. He is a busy man." "I am a member of this guild," Adam said. She finally looked up from her papers and straight at Adam. He was surprised she could see anything past her thick eyeliner. "I don't recognize you," she said. "This is my mercenary card," Adam said and handed over his card, not bothering to explain about his whereabouts for the 7 months. She read through his name. Her expression didn't change. Then she read the text about his mercenary affiliation and looked slightly surprised that he was actually a member of their guild. Then, she caught sight of the recruit text, and her black eyes popped open in shock. Her jaw almost dropped. She had been the receptionist for the Crimson Hounds for the past few months, as she couldn't become mercenary as she received a pathetic score of E in the tutorial. Thus, she traveled around the New World until she found herself in Ebon Reach. It wasn't a nice place for a young woman such as herself, so she hoped to find work in some guild for protection and became the receptionist for Crimson Hounds. She had heard about this guild and that they had an S-ranker in their guild. She couldn't understand how, because this guild screamed ordinary from the outside and inside. While she was just an E-ranked recruit, she always wondered just how great S-rankers were as she continued hearing about Adam through the mouths of other guild members. "Why you?" she stammered. "Hey, Lydia." At that moment, Lucette walked down from the front door with a broken umbrella in hand. "Do you have another umbrella? This one was riddled with holes." Lydia didn't answer as she continued staring at Adam blankly, an awkward expression on her face. Lucette frowned, wondering what's going on, and then saw the young man and asked, "Do you need help?" "Lucette, long time no see." Adam smiled. She frowned. While she didn't recognize him, she thought that the voice sounded familiar but a little deeper. She picked up his mercenary card from Lydia's hands and checked it out. Her eyes widened in shock. "Adam! You didn't recognize me?" Adam scratched the back of his head. "I am kind of hurt." "Adam!" With a bright smile, she hugged him and pushed his head against her breasts. "You're back. You've grown so tall and handsome. What happened to you?" Having difficulties breathing, Adam struggled to free himself from her tight embrace. He tapped on her back as a sign of surrender, and then she finally freed him. "I thought you wouldn't be back for another 2 years," Lucette said with a giant smile. "Why so soon? Is Digby here?" Adam asked. "I'll explain it to you all at the same time." He is at his office." Lucette grabbed his hand and led him to the 2nd floor. A short walk later, they arrived at the guild master's office. With a couple knocks, Lucette opened the door without waiting for a response and saw Digby sitting at his desk, meditating. "What did I say about interrupting?" Digby slowly opened his eyes. "Adam's back." Lucette shouted and dragged Adam behind her. Adam! Digby raised an eyebrow, surprised, and stood up from his chair. You're back? What happened? It looks like they didn't send a letter to him about my sudden disappearance. Adam thought. Adam then smiled and said, I didn't think I could learn any more from them. What? Digby frowned, and without any courtesy, he used his Kiryoku on him and fell a step back, his eyes widening in shock. Your strength. He couldn't believe it. How? It's been only 7 months. While he was impressed by his current level, he was prime mercenary and was able to see even deeper into Adam's strength that surpassed his level greatly. Your 3 powers, how are they? Digby sat back down and asked with a serious expression. Kiryoku is at the peak of the 2nd level, I think I can reach the 3rd level soon. Hearing that, both Digby and Lucette were stunned. The 3rd level was something that took years to achieve for many. It took Digby 5 years to reach that, and he was currently at the peak of the 3rd level. While the 1st and 2nd levels weren't that hard to achieve, the jump to the 3rd was immense, yet Adam was already confident that he would be able to achieve that. I am 2nd level in craft. Adam said and clad the sleeve of his shirt with a black layer of armor. Digby nodded. It wasn't as shocking as the thing with Kiryoku, but impressive nonetheless. And I am at the peak 2nd level in magic, Adam said. I think I can reach 3rd level this month. Whoa! Lucette, who was a magician, was impressed as well. She was at the peak 3rd level, it took her 6 years to achieve. However, the gate that was blocking the 3rd level was incredibly hard to pass, so she believed that Adam was quite a bit underestimating the difficulty of that. Digby nodded and said. No wonder you left that institute. If you believe that was the best decision, I trust you. How's the things been in here? Adam asked out of curiosity. Digby's expression turned serious. Not good. Hey! We've encountered some problems. Digby said. A while back, I sent Zahn and a few others to beyond the wall to treasure hunt as I had received a map for one of the locations. Unfortunately, while they were returning, they were ambushed and killed. Zahn is dead. Adam looked surprised. Yes. Digby scratched the back of his head. Killed by someone named Victor Vash. I askeden/o/vel/b//in.c//om. My uncle, and apparently he is the leader of a group called Wild Sons, one of the more notorious groups among wildlifers. Victor Vash. Adam's eyes turned cold. The 5th General of Death Faction, Victor Vash from Wild Sons. In his past life, he'd encountered him on the battlefield more times than he would have wanted to. While Adam was the 5th General of Star Faction, he was the 5th General of Death Faction, so of course there was some serious rivalry between the two. Chapter 202, Deceased Paladin Armor. Digby felt sour after speaking about Zahn. After he respawned from his death, Zahn quit the game completely because he believed that he'd failed his trust. Thus, Digby lost one of his best friends, and whenever he thought about it, his anger towards Victor would consume him. Anyway, I am glad you're back. Digby said. I guess your next step is to go to the promotion test. That's right. Adam nodded. It'll be in 2 weeks. Digby said. What test do you want to do? You'll skip Beyonder and go straight for Holiman. I was thinking of doing the grandeur test. Adam dropped a bomb. Grandeur. Lucette exclaimed and put her hand on his shoulder. Are you sure? Average grandeur mercenary would become one as level 16. Digby said. It's unheard of that someone became one as level 12. I am confident. Adam said. I would go for Arch Warrior, but I feel like that's pushing it. I don't think I am ready for that yet. This level of growth is unprecedented. Digby thought. If he can really become grandeur in a year's time, his level of talent would rival that of King Moriarty's. Very well, I'll be sending the letter. Digby said. Lucette, go show him his room. Lucette nodded with a smile, and as they headed to the door, they heard Digby say. For the foreseeable future, we are forbidden from going beyond the wall, he said. Adam nodded and then followed after Lucette, leaving the second floor and heading up one floor. The third floor was where all the living quarters were. They had been saving a room just for Adam. It was at the end of the floor, by the corner room that was slightly bigger than an ordinary room and had a good view outside. It was already furnished, as they remembered that Adam wasn't that fond of furnishing himself, as he didn't make any changes to his previous room back in the Dawn Watch. He dropped his backpack on his bed and let out a sigh of relief. What are you sighing about? Lucette asked with a smile as she fixed up some books on the shelf so they wouldn't fall. She was solely responsible with furnishing his room, and she wanted it to be perfect before he returned. It feels strange to be back, that's all, he said and sat down on the bed. We were missing you. Lucette said and smiled. Glad to see you back in one place. In one place. Adam touched his waist. Am I really? These scars had been hurting over the past few months. It felt like they would randomly light up in flames for no reason at all. The fight against Renard had longer consequences than he expected. It would take many years for these scars to fade and heal. Is that you, Adam? A familiar voice came by the door, and Nahas, along with a couple of familiar faces, entered the room. Lucette smiled and left the room, leaving the younger generation alone. Nahas, Hannah, and Alan. Adam said with a smile. Long time no see. Nahas punched him on the shoulder gently and sat next to him. I didn't recognize you at first, but this room was supposed to be for you, so I just guessed. Wow, you've changed a lot. Hannah said while staring at Adam, round-eyed and in disbelief. It wasn't just a small growth spur, but it seemed like he was a completely different person. Then they realized that Adam must be Highlander. Highlanders had something in their gene that gave them abnormal growth spurs throughout their lives. It looked like he didn't have his growth spur before going to Elder Tree Institute. When Nahas looked at Adam, he couldn't see the limit of his strength. It felt like he was staring at an endless ocean of potential and power. You've become Beyonder? Adam asked as he looked at Nahas. Yet. Nahas said while scratching the back of his head. I was excited about finally going beyond the wall, but it's forbidden now because of those wildlife or trash. Yeah, I heard about it. It's horrible. Adam said with a serious look. The mercenaries have sent hunting groups after Victor and his henchmen, but they never returned. Thus, we have to stay here and wait until the situation gets under control. Oh, what else are you guys doing in here? Adam asked out of curiosity. He also wanted to do something to kill his boredom since going outside the wall was out of the question. Ebonreach had its very own entrance to the dungeon as well. It was hidden below the ground, but he didn't feel like going to the dungeon as of yet. Quests, Alan said. There's Quest Tavern down the street where you can earn some money by completing tasks for the city. Interesting, I might do those. Adam said. First of all, I planned on purchasing a new weapon. Any good stores here? Dr. Locksmith's Weapon Emporium has some of the best weapons in the city, Alan replied. I suppose I'll visit that. Adam said, already wondering what kind of weapon he would go for. While he liked Gladius' sword and heater shield, they were still second-rate weapons compared to what he hoped to find at Dr. Locksmith's. Luckily for him, he didn't need to purchase another armor as he found one he liked very much. From one of his treasure escapades, a full set of deceased paladin armor. It belonged to a paladin of Holy Order that used to roam these lands a long time ago. Now, old and forgotten, but the armor was in perfect condition. Armor, deceased paladin armor. Rank, Purple Epic. Defense, 335. Magic defense, 200. Durability, 100%. Description: enchanted with protective spells, this armor boosts the wearer's strength and resilience in battle. It also grants protection from dark magic and curses. It was made out of polished silver steel. The helmet was a full helm, protecting the whole head with a slit for the eyes and an ornate design of a griffin wrapping around the sides. The chest plate was broad and muscular, as if it were designed to mimic the idealized form of the human torso. It also had holy symbols, such as crosses, sunbursts, and the old emblem often /O/vel/B//in.C//om. The Holy Order. The pauldrons looked large and rounded, providing ample protection for the shoulders. It was also very spiky, giving the appearance more of a dramatic and tough appearance. The gauntlets that were usually wrapped around the sword hilts were sturdy and articulated, allowing more flexibility. The fingers of the gauntlet were pointed and reinforced, also spiky around the knuckles for added protection and to look more tough. The armor used to have a cape, but Adam removed it as he didn't want to wear any other cape than the Crimson Cape, as it was a trademark of their guild. "I suppose I'll go visit that store," Adam said and stood up. "It was nice to meet y'all. Be careful out there." Nahus offered a word of advice. "These people don't like Scarless like us. I even thought about giving myself a scar so they would stop pestering me, but I have a hunch they will know if it's self-inflicted." "I'll be fine," Adam said with a smile and waved his hand as he walked away. "See you later." Chapter 203, Quest Tavern. Within Dr. Locksmith's weapon shop, Adam eyed the shelves of various swords and daggers. Some of the price tags made his eyes pop out, including one particularly ornate sword that was priced at 500,000 coin pieces. What about this one? Adam picked up a sword that was worth 25,000 shine coins. If he purchased it, he wouldn't have enough for a shield, but he didn't really care as he had his wings and armor that gave him great defense already. He wondered whether he even had any need for a shield anymore. He thought about switching to great sword and focusing solely on offense while leaving the defense aspect for his wings. "This is a nice sword N/O/vel/B//JN.C//om. Adam looked at the sword in his hand. It was great sword, with the blade being a shade of silver and the hilt made of polished oak. Its blade's thickness was same as of longsword, but its length was much longer, around 2 meters long. It felt light to wield, which made it perfect for his style of combat, as he didn't want a weapon that would hinder his speed. "Sir, did you find a weapon that you'd like?" The shop's owner, Dr. Locksmith, came over to him after finishing up with the previous customer. They were the only ones remaining at the store. "This one," Adam said as he swung the great sword in his hand. "Oh, great sword of the Forgotten King, a fine choice indeed," Dr. Locksmith said with a smile. "Forgotten King?" Adam asked out of curiosity. "Who is this Forgotten King you're speaking of?" "That's the thing, no one knows," Dr. Locksmith said. "Someone had to be the king before the King Moriarty's rise to the throne, but no one remembers and knows who it was. When you check out the sword's information, you'll see that the sword's name is the Great Sword of the Forgotten King, so that's how I know." "Interesting." Adam checked out the information, and the name was indeed inscribed there. "You think the current king knows?" "Who knows?" Dr. Locksmith shrugged his shoulders. "It's not that expensive because its attributes are only worth that much." "You don't care about the fact that this blade belonged to a king?" Adam asked. "The stuff of kings usually comes with a price." "I don't really care about it," Dr. Locksmith said. "Maybe that's just the sword's name, and it actually didn't belong to any king, but the blacksmith who forged it named it as such." "That could be true," Adam said. "I'll take this. Then follow me to the counter, let's finish the transaction." After going to the counter, Adam paid the whole sum for the great sword and saw his total wealth go down with a great margin. With a slight pang in his heart, he gave the money away and then left the weapon store, a new sword strapped on his back. Since it was such a long sword, it didn't fit to any ordinary scabbard, so there was a custom one for it that was to be strapped on the back. Usually, he had his shield strapped on his back, but he stored his heater shield in his inventory as he didn't feel like using it. He also planned on perhaps putting it away into his room's storage so that it wouldn't bring extra weight on his travels, as inventory's weight mattered. I'll go check out that Quest Tavern. It's been a while since I've been there, he thought to himself. The Quest Tavern's swinging doors creaked open one after another as the patrons inside laughed and clinked their glasses together. Through the swinging doors, Adam entered the loud, smoky room, feeling a sense of nostalgia wash over him. It wasn't even a night yet. The sky was turning slightly orange, but the tavern was already full. While drinking the tavern's very own brewed ale, the city folk laughed and chatted. Some of them had finished a long day at work, some mercenaries were sharing stories of their latest adventures, and a group of minstrels had already begun to play. Within all the noise and commotion, several people were gathered around the quest board that had tattered posters nailed to it. Adam went straight to the quest board. He didn't come here to drink and eat, he came for a new adventure to embark on. While looking around the quest board, he came across a particularly interesting poster that caught his eye. Quest: Capture the Thief. Rank: Holyman and above. Location: Mercenary Street. Description: a thief has been roaming these streets, right at the front steps of the mercenaries, and yet the thief had not been caught, telling a lot about the skills and cunning of this criminal. Find the thief, capture him, and bring him to justice. Reward: 2,500 shine coins. 2,500 shine coins isn't much, but it's pretty interesting quest. He took the quest poster from the board and walked to the bartender and put it down on the counter. I'd like to take this quest. The bartender checked out the quest and pointed to the back door. Go talk to the owner of this establishment. She takes care of the quests. Adam nodded, took the quest poster with him, and walked to the door that seemed like it would lead to the back alleyway, but there was actually yet another room behind it. With a couple of knocks, he heard a voice, and then he opened the door. In the small office with a stench of cigarettes and alcohol, a busty-chested woman in a red dress sat behind a cluttered desk, smoking and drinking at the same time. She was far from a lady. A quest taker? She asked. I see the poster in your hand. Stop wasting my time, and come here. Very well. Adam put the quest on her desk, right beside the empty bottles of alcohol and cigarette butts. That thief quest, yeah. She put her hand forth. Give me your mercenary card, I'll have to confirm that you have the skills required to complete this. I am still order giver. Adam said. Ha! She scoffed. You'll need more than just bravado for this one. This thief is also a killer. I might be order giver, but my strength is not. Adam said. I'll allow you to check me out. With Kiryoku. Very well. She used her Kiryoku on him, and after a moment, she put another cigarette between her rosy lips. I see. Give me your mercenary card, I'll register you. After handing over his card, she wrote his name down in the logbook, and after a few strokes of the pen, she recognized the name that she was writing. Well, dear me. She looked at him. We got a celebrity in here, hey. To think that someone of your status would deal with these backwater quests. Adam looked into her eyes and saw a glint of amusement. Just it doesn't matter here what kind of genius you are. You can be the king, yet you wouldn't gain a single ounce of respect from anyone in these circles. I know. Scar and the Scarless. Adam nodded. I heard about it. She laughed and said. My name's Shura. I can give you a proper scar, what do you say? I already have a scar. Adam said and lifted his shirt. A painful one. As soon as she said the scar, she licked her lips and asked. Do you want to fuck? Excuse me. Adam slowly lowered his shirt. Shura leaned on her chair and crossed her long legs, then after a couple of puffs of smoke, she said, "You heard me. Do you want to fuck? I am here only for the quest." Adam said, "I'll have to pass." "Shame," she said and shook her head. That scar was indeed beautiful. It's worth more than you can imagine. It tells 1,000 different tales to those who know how to read them. You know how to read the scars? Adam asked curiously. I can. Shura said. You received the scar from a powerful enemy, yet, somehow, you're the last one standing in that fight. I must admit, it made me wet. That's nice, I guess. Adam picked up the quest. Can I go finish the quest now? You may, she said. The thief is a slippery one. This quest had been failed 2 times already, but you know the saying. 3rd time's the charm. Adam replied. Shura raised a cup for him and wished him good luck. With that, he left the room and headed straight out of the tavern to embark on his quest. Chapter 204, The Witch Doctor. Adam grabbed a handful of small pebbles, barely the size of his fingernails, and tossed them into his brownish pouch that, for some odd reason, was also wet to the touch. Then he placed his pouch, filled to the brim with the small pebbles, inside his pocket that swelled because of the size of the pouch. Now, preparations are done. Adam dried up his hands because of the wet pouch and drank some kind of beverage that had strange color to it. I heard the thief is usually roaming the mercenary street, which is pretty bold. The thief is master pickpocketer and has even been able to successfully steal from mercenaries. There are some that want the thief dead, but whoever put up the quest just wants him brought to justice. Since he already knew where to start from, he roamed the mercenary street and eyed the walking pedestrians with a watchful eye. He blended in well with the crowd, except his height was only matched by some of the taller mercenaries, making him stand out slightly. A thief! A thief! A commotion came from the street ahead of him. Some turned their heads around, but quite a few outright ignored it and continued with their day. A thief! Adam pushed past the crowd and saw a brunette-haired woman anxiously looking around in confusion. She was screaming about her purse missing as if it had suddenly disappeared from her hands. The thief's here! Adam thought to himself and expanded his Kyryoko to cover the entirety of the mercenary street. However, at that moment, he felt his pocket turn shockingly light, and when he touched it, he noticed that his pouch was gone. What? Adam checked his empty pocket in shock. The thief managed to stay hidden from my Kyryoko and steal something as heavy as my pouch without me even noticing it at first. When he looked around him, trying to find the thief, he didn't find anyone carrying his heavy pouch, as if the thief was invisible. Not bad. Adam then activated his Kyryoko, and for some odd reason, he could feel a fraction of his aura getting further and further away. His lips curled into a slight smile. He wanted his pouch to get stolen, that's why he made the pouch big with the small pebbles so the thief would think that he was a loaded young man, here to have some good time at the tavern. That's why he was dressed as ordinary original with a brownish tunic and white trousers to blend himself with the crowd and trick the thief into stealing it. It was because he covered one of the pebbles with his blood had a scent of his aura, which he could track now that he was 2nd level in Kyryoko. It's very advanced level of skill, which most 2nd level Kyryoko users didn't have any ideas about. Adam followed the scent of his aura, leaving the mercenary street behind and headed to the outskirts of Ebon Reach. The outskirts were a desolate area. A few years ago, powerful magicians fought there, leaving behind remnants of their destructive spells that still lingered in the air. Because of the destruction, hundreds of houses there were burned and collapsed, so no one bothered to live amid the ash and rubble. As he followed the scent, he noticed that it led to one of the alleyways there. He picked up his pace and drew his sword. Then, as he arrived at the corner of the alleyway, he jumped into the alleyway with his sword ready to slash down. However, there was no one there except the pouch, open on the pavement, with its contents spilled out. Adam crouched in front of it and picked up one of the pebbles that was covered in his blood. Not bad. He saw that there were other fingerprints on the blood-soaked pebble, and it seemed to belong to the thief. The thief recognized that something was odd. He is good, very good. However, he didn't care as he smiled. Still, I have the upper hand. The blood-soaked pebble was not his only plan. He drenched the pouch with a special poison he created. That's why, when Adam touched it, he had to drink special antidote, otherwise, he would have suffered from several different symptoms of poison. It wasn't lethal poison, as he didn't want to kill the thief, but it was a very annoying type, as it made the target feel extremely sick, nauseated, and weak till it was cured. Unless the thief knows herbology, his only choice is to find a witch doctor to cure him. Adam thought with a smile. With a great coincidence, Ebon Reach only has one witch doctor available, and I know where she is living. Adam dropped his blood-soaked pebble and left the outskirts of Ebon Reach, heading straight to the witch doctor's hut. Bang, bang, bang. Someone knocked on the door so loudly that it shook the walls of the hut. Who is it? The witch doctor went to the door and opened it. She was smelling like rotten eggs, and her eyes glowed bright green. As soon as the door opened, a person collapsed to the ground in front of her. I need help. He called out weakly and crawled himself into the hut before closing the door. Henry. The witch doctor looked at his abnormally pale face and saw green veins popping out. You're poisoned. Yes. Henry climbed back to his feet with great difficulty and collapsed on the bed that was usually reserved for patients. Cure me, quickly. She looked conflicted and then saw his outfit, full black. You were again stealing. Weren't you? You should stop doing that. I don't have time for chit-chat. Henry shouted. I am being chased by someone. You were poisoned by whoever was chasing you. She asked as she started making potent antidote. Yes. Henry whispered. I visited all the potion stores, but none of them had antidotes that could cure this poison. That's why, out of desperation, I had to come here. My chaser will discover this place soon enough. You brought trouble to my doorsteps again. The witch doctor shouted angrily. Come on, the Outlanders should stick together, don't you think so? Henry said with a painful breath. You only take, and take. The witch doctor snapped and put some herbs on the cauldron. I've had enough of your selfish ways. Once I've cured you, don't come back. No worries. Henry said and coughed. This place has become too hot. Now, they've sent someone powerful after me. I can't stay in Ebon Reach any longer. Where are you planning to go? She asked out of curiosity.n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. Who knows, maybe I'll disappear into the shadows for a while. The witch doctor shook her head, and with a few more added spices, she finished the antidote. That gave off a strong smell of mint and earthy aromas. Just stop this thieving business of yours, it'll put you in an early grave. She said, handing the potion over to the thief. Humph! With a scoff, he gulped down the antidote, and in just a few breaths' time, he felt the sickness fade away. I owe you, he said, and stood up, ready to leave. Knock, knock, knock. However, at that moment, someone knocked on the door. Both of them turned to look at the closed door with a shadow of a figure underneath it. He is here. Henry's face paled. Chapter 205, Successful Quest. The witch doctor approached the door, her steps hesitant as she reached out to open the door. What are you doing? Henry whispered in anger. Without answering to him, she opened the door and had to raise her gaze to meet the eyes of the young man waiting outside. May I help you? she asked, but she couldn't hide her trembling voice. I am here to talk with your patient, Adam said with an amiable smile. He is expecting me. The witch doctor didn't oppose it and stepped aside, not daring to meet the betrayed eyes of Henry. The witch doctor knew that he had lost Henry's trust forever, but she knew that he was on the losing end of this conflict. Adam stepped into the hut and saw pale-faced Henry sitting on the bed. It didn't look like he was under the effects of the poison anymore, as he couldn't find any traces of it left in his body. So, you've been chasing me? Henry pulled out a couple of hidden knives behind his back. I suppose bitch Shura and mercenaries finally got tired of me. I am honored. Why don't you come with me? Adam asked. You're just a thief, you won't be sent to Black Keep, but you'll spend a couple of months in Ebon Reach's jail. Haha, that doesn't fit with me, Henry said with a grin. I don't like giving those justice lords any satisfaction of my capture. You're just a small fry, Adam said. A skilled small fry, but small fry nonetheless. If you plead guilty, you'll be in jail for 2 months, and if you desire so, you can return to your thieving ways. I don't care. Nah, 2 months is too much, Henry shouted. It really isn't, Adam said. After all, you don't have to be inside the game to fulfill the sentence. You can just spend those 2 months back in the real world. It's very light punishment. But I would have to give back my hard-earned money, which I'll refuse to do, Henry screamed. I worked hard for that money, and I'm not giving it back. Henry, listen to him, the witch doctor shouted. Your punishment will be much harsher if you fight back. You should listen to her, Adam said. Shut up, traitor, Henry snapped. How much are you getting from the quest? Either way, I'll pay you double. I am not doing this quest for money, Adam said. And I don't like the reputation of someone who fails quests. After all, reputation is the most important thing in mercenary circles. Fucking mercenary trash. I always hated how self-righteous you bastards are. Henry had enough, and with flicks of his wrists, he threw his hidden knives at Adam. Adam, with a single slash of his sword, smacked the knives out of the air. Without staying behind to fight, Henry jumped out of the window, soared across the street below and smashed through another window of the building on the other side. He looked around with a smirk, but to his shock, the young man jumped after him and tackled him to the ground. You were asking for it. Adam raised his fist and smashed it down at Henry's face. Before it could land, Henry rolled out of the way, kicked his legs up, and pushed Adam a step back. Then Henry jumped away from Adam and threw another round of knives, sharp and small-bladed. Adam, with the blunt side of his sword, smacked the knives out of the air and jumped after Henry with a long lunge. Smoke bombs. Henry pulled out several smoke bombs from his inventory and threw them to the ground. As soon as they exploded against the floorboard of the narrow hallway, the room was engulfed in a thick cloud of smoke. Adam slashed through the smoke cloud but landed on nothing. After his swing finished, he sensed an aura above him using his Kiryoku, and when he raised his gaze, he saw Henry clinging to the ceiling with his knife stuck into the wood. Henry stomped his foot down, but Adam caught his feet and smashed him into the floor, knocking all the air out of him. He then smashed Henry to the wall of the hallway, shattering some of the dry wall, and then tossed him against another wall. This time, Henry flew right through the wall and landed on the floor of a room. Kaye! There was a couple embracing in bed who screamed in terror as Henry crashed into their room. Fucker! Henry summoned the last knives on his disposal and threw all of them at Adam, yet with a couple of accurate swings, he smacked all the knives away from him effortlessly. With his shoulder in front of him, Adam tackled at Henry and sent him crashing on another wall. What the hell is happening in here? The innkeeper came after hearing the commotion and almost passed out after seeing the hole in the wall. It would cost a fortune to repair, n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. After seeing the two fighting, he continued shouting profanities. "Mercenary business, stand down!" Adam shouted at the innkeeper while pushing Henry deeper into despair with his powerful swings. Since Henry only had one knife, he didn't bother throwing him, as without it, he wouldn't have any weapons left. Thus, he just dodged, and dodged more. At that moment, Adam tackled at him, wrapped his arms behind his back, and smashed through a window with him, falling several floors onto the pavement below. Smack! The pedestrians scurried away in a hurry, and some went straight to inform the authorities of the Ebon Reach that there was a fight happening in the streets. "Who?" Adam rose above Henry, who hit his head pretty badly on the pavement and seemed to be unconscious. "Had to make me sweat." Adam wiped the sweat off his forehead. "You should have just plead guilty, idiot." With that, he tossed Henry's unconscious body on his shoulder and started heading back to the Quest Tavern. The Quest Tavern's swinging doors blasted open, and a young man with an unconscious man on the shoulder entered, catching the attention of everyone inside. He walked to the counter and dropped the unconscious man onto the floor. "A drink, please," Adam said. "Right away, boss," the bartender said and gave him their very own brewed ale. After drinking it whole, Shura came from her office and saw the scene. An almost sadistic smile spread across her face. "So, is this the little thief?" Shura crouched in front of the unconscious man and looked at his face. "Wait, I know him." "You do?" Adam seemed interested. "Yeah, Henry." Shura took a cigarette from her cleavage and lit it up before placing it between her lips. "He used to be one of my quest takers, but he specialized in quests that made hands dirty." Adam nodded and asked, "So, was my quest successful?" "That remains to be seen," Shura said. "Of course, we'll have to validate it first. You could have captured some random person off the streets, but no worries, it'll be easy to find out." Adam nodded, expecting it. "Come back tomorrow, you'll get your reward then," Shura said and threw a flirtatious wink before taking Henry's unconscious body to the basement to do the validation process. Chapter 206, Temptation. Drip, drip. The water leaked from the wooden ceiling and splashed on the dirty floor below, right beside a chair, where a person was tied up. Henry, his mouth clogged, struggled against the ropes that were binding his wrists and ankles. Shura dragged a chair behind her and took a seat in front and only received a hateful glare from Henry. "Brighten up that darned lantern, will you?" Shura turned her head to an axe-wielding man standing in the corner. He took out a box of matchsticks, went to the lantern by one of the pillars holding up the ceiling, and proceeded to light it up. A better, brighter light filled the room. "Henry, Henry, Henry!" Shura shook her head and touched at the dirty rag that was covering Henry's mouth. "Before I remove this, please keep your words pure and honest." Henry scoffed and his gaze hardened, but he knew he had no choice but to comply, so he nodded. Shura removed the dirty rag. "Bitch," Henry said. "What did I say?" Shura blocked his mouth immediately after, a look of disappointment in her face. "Keep your words pure and honest." She again removed the dirty rag from his mouth. "I was honest, wasn't I?" Henry sarcastically said. "A comedian, are you now?" Shura tossed the dirty rag away and crossed her long, smooth legs over. "What happened to you, Henry? You're just a common thief now." "I am far from a common thief," Henry said. "None of you guys would have been able to catch him. You guys had to hire someone who clearly isn't part of your small circle." "What do you mean?" Shura raised an eyebrow. "That guy who caught me," Henry said. "How much did it cost to hire someone of his caliber?" "I think you have misunderstood," Shura said with a smile. "He just came here today, took a random quest off the board, and caught you. We haven't hired anyone." "So who is he then?" Henry asked. Some powerful mercenary who was bored? Otherwise, why would he have come to this dirty and run-down tavern? Does the name Adam Palestar ring a bell? Shura asked. That's rancor. Henry frowned. What about him? That was him. That's impossible. Henry screamed. I've seen his picture. They look nothing alike, and he is only a 1-year-old rookie. There's no way he is this powerful already. He is, believe it or not. Shura giggled. You haven't denied that you're indeed the thief we've been searching for. I am not denying it, that's me. Henry screamed. And, when I'll be freed from that dirty prison, I'll do it again. Prison. Shura giggled. Oh, boy, you're not going to prison. What? Henry frowned. At that moment, the axe-wielding man swung his axe, and it came crashing down towards Henry's head. Swoosh! Henry got beheaded in executioner style. The head dropped to the ground like an apple falling from a tree. Shura lit up another cigarette and put it between her rosy lips. No one betrays my trust and gets to keep their head. Under the moon's glow, Adam was leaning out of a window of his new room, staring at the stars above. Ding, ding. Then he heard some strange dinging noises coming from somewhere. When he checked it out, he saw that there were messages from Sarah. The message was mostly about cleaning his real-life room, which didn't really need that much cleaning as he'd barely used it. However, because of that, there might be some dust that needed to be taken care of. After leaving the Elder Tree Institute, he'd spent more time in the real world and less time in the virtual reality game he had been obsessed with. While Sarah was still as stern to him as before, he'd spent more time with Alice, and she always updated him on the newest news. Apparently, his new technique of speed step became quite famous in the arena online circles, and everyone had been using it. Because of that technique, Oath managed to win every match he played and reached number 1 rank worldwide for the first time ever. However, after everyone got used to the speed step, the other top players caught to him, and it didn't take long for him to lose the number 1 spot. At that moment, the door of his room opened, and a young woman with her arms crossed stood in the doorway, a pout on her face as she tried to make herself look cute. Adam. Adam turned around, and he forced a smile. It was one of the hardest things he ever had to do. Amelia. Adam tried for his voices to sound warm, but it was very hard to do. Long time no see. Humph. Amelia entered the room, her cheeks blushing and pink lipstick covering her lips. She approached Adam and then put her arms wide, as if she were readying for a hug. A hug? She said, trying to sound all cute and flirty. I've been missing you. Adam accepted the hug and embraced her against his sturdy chest. She, while being hugged, thought it would be disgusting, but when she felt his powerful chest, her cheeks had a genuine blush. The previous blush was the work of a makeup artist to make her look like she was blushing naturally. He has changed. With a blush, she placed her cheek on his chest and felt his powerful heartbeat. Ba dump. Ba dump. I actually don't mind this. It feels right. A handsome, powerful, and wealthy man needs someone like me on his side. We're destined to be together. While she couldn't see his expression, Adam's smile had vanished, and he was looking blankly ahead at the air. He felt like he was trapped in a nightmare that he couldn't wake up from. She then pushed her soft chest against his chest and lowered her hand down to teasingly touch his genital area. Adam, should we? She whispered in his ear, her hot breath tickling his skin. She was very beautiful indeed, and any other young man would already be undressing. It was very hard to fight against the desire. Adam felt his willpower weaken, but he then moved her hand away and took a step back. Amelia looked up at him, puzzled. Don't antagonize her. I'll still need her to think that I like her so that my revenge hurts her more. Adam sat on his bed and loosened his collar, looking like he had difficulties breathing. "Are you sure, Amelia?" he asked while making his words sound shy. "Why so suddenly?" She smiled, leaned closer to him, and placed her hands beside his legs, whispering softly in his ear. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." She then planted a few kisses on his neck and continued to sit down on his lap while her arms wrapped around his shoulders. "What the fuck can I do?" Adam thought to himself while feeling her wet lips pressing against un/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. His skin. "Do I really have to embrace her? I would rather do it with a cave dwarf." She then started touching his shirt, wanting to remove it completely. When he started thinking that there was nothing he could do, one of his windows suddenly shattered and a rock, which seemed to have broken the window, landed on the floor. "Kaye!" Amelia hid behind Adam and looked at the broken window. "Someone broke the window. I'll go check it out." Adam, finding a way of salvation, walked over to the window. "Wait, don't go!" Amelia shouted, trying to grab him by the arm, but missed. "It must be some little kid's prank. Let's continue what we were doing. No one can disrespect Crimson Hounds and get away with it. I'll find the culprit." Without staying behind, Adam opened the broken windows and jumped out, ignoring the fact that they were on the highest floor. The door then swung open again, and some Crimson Hounds members rushed in after hearing the commotion. They tracked the sound to Adam's room and rushed there as quickly as possible. However, to their surprise, they only found Amelia there. "Amelia, what are you doing in Adam's room?" Lucette asked. Amelia looked embarrassed and just walked away, shouting, "Nothing. Where's Adam?" "He left." Chapter 207, Connery. Adam jumped from roof to roof, not using his wings, as those weren't exactly low-key enough to stay unnoticed. Those wings could cause quite a commotion if anyone were to see them. After a short while, Adam stopped at the end of another building's roof, and looked around the sleeping city of the Ebon Reach. "I don't know who threw that rock, but thank you." This was the first time that he actually believed in a god. While trying to resist the temptation, he tried praying for perhaps the first time ever, and it looked like his prayers got answered. "You should stop doing that." Adam turned around to the voice and saw a tall, like 3 meters tall, man sitting on top of a chimney, wearing a spiky, delinquent outfit with short, black hair. It looked like he was a mix of a delinquent and a punk, but he was abnormally tall. 3 meters was a rarity for humans. However, because of Highlander's unusual genes, it was possible to have a growth spur that extreme. "I guess you were the one that threw the rock," Adam said, having to raise his gaze significantly to meet Highlander's eyes. "Who do I have pleasure talking to?" Simultaneously he was thinking. "I guess it wasn't God's doing after all." "You're a fellow Highlander," the tall man said. "I recognize that accent anywhere." "I am," Adam said. "And I guess you got the extreme version of the Highlander genes." "My grandfather was 4 meters tall, I am nothing but a midget compared to him," he said. "You can call me Connery." "All right, Connery. Why did you throw a rock at my window?" Adam asked. "You were about to have sex with that woman," Connery said. "For your and her safety, I had to stop it." "For our safety, what do you mean?" Adam frowned. "Ah, listen." Connery scratched the back of his head. "Just trust me in this one. You don't want her to start crying. I won't report to her what you were about to do, but if you do, I must." "Her?" Adam frowned. "Why would someone care what I do? I don't appreciate being stalked. Honestly, I don't want to follow you around either," Connery said. "However, I am very loyal to her, and she wanted me to be here. Let's make a deal," Adam said. "Leave me alone, and I won't have any sexual relationships." What do you say? Can I trust you, though? Connery rubbed his chin. I'll be honest with you. Adam leaned against the same chimney, where Connery was sitting. I didn't want to do anything with her. I am thankful that you saved me from that situation. It didn't look like it. Connery said. You didn't try to say no. You didn't push her away or anything. It's more complicated than that. Adam said. She thinks that I like her. I must keep her thinking that. You hate her that much that you don't want to even touch her? Connery asked. That's wild. What the hell did she do to you? Something I will pay her back for. Adam said while cracking his knuckles. Well, she is pretty. Connery pulled out a canteen of alcohol and handed it over to Adam. Have a drink. This is brewed in the high mountains of the east, and you can taste the purity in every drop. Adam took a sip and felt a warm sensation fill his body. A question. Connery looked at him. Can you handle the temptations? After a few drinks, something might happen, especially since she seems to be wanting to seduce you. I was already drunk. Adam said. I took a drink at Quest Tavern. They make ale there so strong, it knocks you off your feet after just one sip. Oh. Connery laughed. I thought I smelled something strong on your breath. She most likely made her advance after recognizing that as well. Adam said. She is the type of woman who knows how to take advantage of situations. The worst kind of woman. Connery laughed and took the drink from Adam, then drank it in one gulp. Who is this woman you're listening to? Adam asked. Royal Prince, such as yourself, shouldn't be assigned to mere spy duty. Oh, you know how to accurately tell my strength. Connery chuckled. Most impressive. I am an assassin and spy. I work for her because I owe her a great debt. One of the 7 ancient guilds? Adam asked. Haha, fuck no. Connery laughed in a drunken mess. I suppose you would think that. They will fight for your help when they realize your current strength. I'll be going to take my promotion test in a couple of weeks. I guess they will approach me. Adam scoffed. Then he remembered something and asked Connery. Did you spy me in the Elder Tree Institute, as well? Adam asked. After a fight I had there, someone left behind a flask for me that healed some of my injuries. That must be my colleague. Connery said. After that, he stopped following you around. This is my first day spying on you. Adam looked at him and asked again. So, can you stop following me around? I like my privacy, YC. Fine by me. Connery said and let out a powerful yawn. I'll find someone else to spy on. I appreciate it. Adam stretched his arms and started walking away on the roof. I'll need to return before others start to worry. Connery watched as he jumped from this roof to another, slowly disappearing from sight. Connery jumped off the chimney, and despite his tall body, he managed to cross the roofs like it was nothing. At that moment, his face started to turn into the face of a horse, then hooves sprouted from his hands and feet, then he went into 4 legs, white fur slowly covering his entire body. After the majestic transformation, he'd turned into a beautiful white horse with a flowing mane and powerful muscles. He was bigger, stronger, and longer than any horse could be. With a powerful neigh, 2 white wings sprouted from his back, and he took off into the sky, soaring gracefully towards the clouds. Through the broken window, Adam returned to his room and turned his gaze to his bed. He immediately wanted to lie down and sleep, exhausted from the day's events. Oh, you're back. Nahus waved his hand from the door and entered the room. I heard something happen. Oh, Nahus, yet. Adam looked at the broken window. Some kid broke the window. I found him, and made his parents discipline him properly. Oh, I see. Nahus nodded and then showed a sly smile. I heard Amelia was here. What were You two lovebirds doing? Lovebirds, what? Adam frowned. It's obvious that you two are dating. Nah said. You guys aren't. No, we definitely aren't. Adam sat down on his bed. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. Oh. Nah scratched his chin. A few new recruits are crushing on her bad. I told them to give up on it because I thought you two were a thing, but I guess I was wrong. Yeah, you're wrong. Adam laid on the bed. I am sorry, but it's been an exhausting day. I want to sleep. All right. Nahs pointed at the window. I was here to tell you that they will fix that broken window tomorrow. Try to survive through the cold wind for tonight, aight. Adam nodded, and then Nahs left, closing the door behind him. With an inaudible murmur, his eyes closed shut, and he entered the dreamland of deep sleep. Chapter 208, Meditation. There's the money for the gig. Shura put a pouch of shine coins on the table. Adam took it and tossed the pouch up and down in his hand a couple of times, and then nodded. You aren't planning on counting the coins? Shura asked with a smirk. I already did. Adam stored the pouch's contents at his interface and closed it immediately afterwards. He then rose from his seat, bid farewell to her, and headed to the door. If you're interested, there's a Mad Marbles tournament happening by nightfall. Shura said. The prize pool is at 10,000 shine coins. The entrance fee is 1,000. Adam glanced at her and then opened the door. I'll have to pass. I am not that good at that game, I would just waste my time n/o/vel/b//in.c//om. Alright, but if you change your mind nightfall. Shura then returned to her paperwork. After leaving her office slightly richer, he went to check the quest board briefly, but it looked like all the interesting quests had been taken as there were only some minor fetch quests left. Since there weren't any quests for him, he left the tavern and waltzed through the bustling city square while trying to find out something to do. He then noticed something that took away his attention around a fountain of shimmering water, sitting cross-legged on mats while a bald-headed monk preached about something. A meditation session. Adam looked interested and approached the site. The nearby pedestrians avoided the area, knowing that it would bring bad fortune if they bothered with anyone's meditation. There was one empty mat, and Adam decided to sit on it, crossing his legs. Welcome, young one. The bald-headed man approached him, his hands hidden by the sleeves of his orange robe. Hello. Adam replied and lowered his head slightly to bow. Are you aware of the art of meditation? He asked. I can teach you if you don't. I know. Adam said. Is this meditation boosted by something? Yes, young one. The bald-headed monk revealed an amulet. Amulet of Golden Buddha. It increases the efficiency of your meditation by 50%. Okay, are you a wandering monk? Adam asked while closing his eyes. Yes. Yes, I am, the monk replied. I'll be gone by tomorrow. I'll continue my journey to spread wisdom and peace. Adam nodded and then entered deep into meditation. He asked such questions because the wandering monks had the ability of increasing the effects of meditation. The meditation helped to calm one down, enhancing their focus and clarity of mind. However, it also helped with karaoke and magic, which was Adam's main focus for now. With this meditation enhancement, I can push both of them closer to the third level. In his mind, the waves of the lake calmed down, mirroring his own internal state. However, slowly, yet steadily, the lake started to grow bigger as if there were a waterfall nearby, filling the space with its roaring sound. At the same time, his mind began to expand and open up to new possibilities. While using his karaoke now, he was able to feel the auras of hundreds of people near him, but slowly, he started to be able to sense the emotions and intentions behind each aura. Slowly, the amount of auras he was able to sense went from 100 to 200, then 300, and 400. He was nearing the third level at rapid speed. However, at that moment, he felt a hand on his shoulder, and his eyes popped up. "Young one, what a deep meditation!" The monk was impressed. He hadn't seen anyone other than monks being in such a deep state that they would be blind to the surroundings. Adam, surprised, saw that the sky was dark and the street lamps were already lit up. The city square looked empty as there were only a few pedestrians moving by. "How long was I meditating?" Adam asked. 10 hours, the monk said. "I am sorry that I had to stop you, but in your current state, if I hadn't, you might have continued meditating for days." "It's fine." Adam stood up from the mat, bowed, and then started heading back to the mercenary street. He could feel that his Kyryoko and magic had improved, but there was one more leap he had to take before reaching the third level. However, he could feel that he was closer than ever before. "Even I am impressed by my current rate of improvement. In my past life, I was stuck in the second level of Kyryoko and the third level of magic, yet I am about to surpass myself in Kyryoko and reach my previous peak in magic." Adam never thought of himself as a genius, but he was able to reach great lengths with his mere C rank score in his past life. No one thought he would reach as far as he did, but he did, and it looked like he could have reached even greater lengths if he hadn't died. Now, his speed of improvement made him excited but also made him wonder. How was he able to learn them so easily? He was expecting a bottleneck, but it never came. It was like his level of talent had increased with his regression. While training in his past life, he always arrived at the bottleneck after bottleneck. It was why he stopped properly training Kyryoko, as he couldn't break through the bottleneck. Now there hadn't been any bottlenecks. "I heard that S-rankers rarely came across bottlenecks." Adam walked down the dimly lit streets and chuckled. "I do look like a real S-ranker, don't I?" With the computer screen glowing in front of him, Adam used the mouse and browsed through the internet. After finishing his meditation session, he returned to Crimson Hound's headquarters and logged out before Amelia again visited his room. He knew that she was planning to do so, as when he returned to the headquarters, he found Nahas, Amelia, and the rest playing some cards. When he caught Amelia's gaze, he felt a chill run down his back, and he believed that she was going to try something again. Thus, he ran away back to the real world. Gang war raging in red thread. Monstrum's borders closed because of epidemic. Oldland's military on high alert. What a mess. Adam read through some of the news stories that were circling in the dark web, and when he read through them, he felt like the world was indeed a dangerous place. The dark web mostly consisted of news about warfare, political unrest, and other negative events happening around the world. Knock, knock. Adam clicked off the dark web and opened the door to find Alice standing there with a smile on her face. "Alice, what's up? I saw light coming from under your door and heard a mouse clicking." Alice curiously peeked towards the computer. "Are you busy?" "Not at the moment, what's wrong?" Adam let her in his room, which was pretty crowded because of the VR pod by the corner that took quite a bit of space. Alice nervously fidgeted her fingers and said, "Tomorrow is a school sports day, and parents are at work tomorrow, so they can't come, but I was wondering if you want to come." What do I need to do there?" Adam asked out of curiosity. "There are some events that are team-oriented, and I need someone to participate with, if you want to." Adam nodded. "It sounds like fun, count me in." Alice's face beamed with excitement, and after reminding him to wake up early, she left to prepare for tomorrow. Adam collapsed on his bed, and murmured, "Sports, hey." Chapter 209, Three-Legged Race. The school's bell rang and echoed through the empty halls. While the school buildings were empty and abandoned, the sports fields were packed with students playing and cheering on their teams. The stands were filled with parents of the students. By one of the grassy hills near the sports fields, some students were there sitting while waiting for their events to start. Alice was sitting with a couple of her friends, cheering for their classmates. "By the way, Alice, when's your partner coming?" Laura asked. "He'll be here shortly," Alice said with a smile. "I just got a text from him saying he's on his way." "So, he is part of the government-appointed caretaker program?" Reina asked. "Yup." Alice nodded. "How does it feel to live with someone who would basically be a stranger in another timeline where plague didn't happen?" Laura asked out of curiosity. "I was curious about that too," Reina said with a giggle. I have never thought of that," Alice said, pondering the question. "It's a strange thought to imagine a reality where we never met. My parents thought once about partaking in government-appointed caretaker program because they had difficulty getting a child," Laura said. "Then, with a lucky stroke, I was born." "Why did your parents go through with it?" Reina asked Alice. "I never asked," Alice said. "My mother is a very serious person, but I feel like they felt pity on Adam after both of his parents died immediately after his birth. Whoever created Dark Plague should rot in hell," Reina said hatefully. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. "It wasn't created by anyone silly, it was naturally occurring," Laura said. "You don't know that." Reina pouted, but when they looked into each other's eyes, they burst into laughter. They had been arguing about it for years, both having their own theories. Alice rolled out her eyes. At that moment, she heard footsteps behind them, and when she turned around, her lips curled into a smile. "Adam, here." She waved her hand so that he could see where she was sitting. Laura and Reina also turned around, and their eyes widened in shock. This was the first time they saw this famous Adam, who Alice keeps talking about, and he was even more attractive in person. With one hand in pocket and another carrying a plastic bag, Adam walked over to them with his eyes shielded behind dark sunglasses. "Here." Adam handed over the plastic bag to Alice and then took a spot beside her on the grassy hill, looking towards the sports fields in the distance. Alice, with a smile, took 3 cold drinks from the plastic bag and gave one to Laura and another to Reina. "What's up?" Alice looked at Laura and Reina, who became suspiciously quiet after Adam came. It looked like they turned shy out of nowhere, while they were usually quite talkative. It's nothing." Laura stammered slightly over her words and then pointed at the fields. "Look, Marcus won another event." With another gold medal around his neck, Marcus smiled while talking with his classmates about his victory. "When's our turn?" Adam asked Alice. "Let me check." Alice took out the schedule. "My name's Reina." Reina brought back her extroverted personality. "You're Adam, right?" You're Alice's friend?" Adam asked, and after seeing her nod, he smiled. "Thanks for taking care of her. I know that she can be somewhat forgetful." "Forgetful?" Alice looked at him with a pout. "Not even. I have only had to share my books with her 5 times when she has forgotten hers." Reina playfully said. "Liar!" Alice exclaimed with a laugh. "I haven't forgotten even once, dirty liars." She then checked the schedule and exclaimed. "Ah, it's actually our turn." Alice stood up in a hurry and pulled Adam to his feet. "You were almost late." "What's the event?" Adam asked curiously. "3-legged race," Alice said urgently, and dragged Adam behind her. "It was nice to meet you too," Adam said to 2 of her friends and then walked after Alice, hand in hand. "I now see why she keeps talking about him." Reina chuckled and shook her head. Laura mumbled to herself, lost in thought. At the 100-meter mark, one of the teachers, who acted as referee of the event, tied Adam's and Alice's ankles together with a piece of string. Then they did the same with their hands till they were holding hands. There were 7 other teams. Partners were always 1 female and 1 male to keep it fair for everyone. Hello, Alice, did you see my victory? Beside Alice, on the first lane, Marcus was standing with a big smile on his face. He was tied to a female classmate of his who was part of the track and field team. They were easily the favorites to win. Yes, I did, congrats. Alice said with a smile. Marcus' cheeks blushed slightly after seeing her smile, and then he turned to her partner, and felt small even though he was already quite tall for someone of his age. Who is your partner? Marcus asked. It's Adam, you two have already met. Alice said. Remember the sparring match in your karate dojo? Marcus' eyes turned fearful, and he turned his gaze to the front. He started sweating, his mind racing with memories of that embarrassing defeat. Why are you sweating so much? His partner asked in annoyance as she felt the sweat on his hand. Marcus. Adam side glanced at Marcus, felt slightly sorry, and then turned his head to the front. He used his image training against Marcus and went pretty far when fighting against him, so he wasn't shocked that Marcus was afraid of him. After all, Marcus treated the fight as just another sparring match, while Adam thought of it as a death match. It was most likely his first time ever having to fight someone that fought to kill. It didn't shock Adam that it was traumatizing for him. The spectators then started cheering as the 3-legged race was about to start. The teacher grabbed the starting pistol, and went to the grass beside the track to start the race. Ready! With a shout, the runners lowered their stances slightly. The referee raised the gun towards the sky, and then with a gentle trigger press, a loud sound echoed throughout the sports field. The 8 teams exploded off the starting line, some looking clumsy as it was their first time trying a 3-legged race. What are you doing, Marcus? His classmate shouted as their rhythm was a complete mess as Marcus was still taken aback. After that shout, he recognized that they were in the race, and started running faster, but because of the sudden shift in the rhythm, his partner almost fell over. They were currently running in 5th place. With the race being not too long, only 100 meters, the race soon ended, and the winning team was a pair of father and daughter, who kept the best rhythm. It helped that the father was a former track and field athlete while the daughter was a volleyball player. As 3rd place, Adam and Alice crossed the finishing line. It started very rough, but they quickly got a grip of the rhythm and started passing others quickly until they reached 3rd place. Because of his much longer limbs, Adam had to slow down his pace to match Alice's shorter strides. It was difficult, but it worked in the end. 3rd. Alice panted slightly and smiled, then high-fived Adam. We got a medal. In the 4th place, Marcus and his partner crossed the finishing line. He was immediately chewed out by his partner for the poor start. This is actually the first medal I've ever won. Adam smiled. It feels nice. I kind of want to win a gold medal now. Chapter 210, No One Can Replace You. After they received their medals, Alice left to have a quick chat with her 2 friends. Adam, left alone, walked along the grass patch while the participating students cheered and celebrated their victories around him. There was youthfulness in the air. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. It takes me back to my school days. Adam thought wistfully, reminiscing about the carefree days of his youth. Hey! At that moment, he was suddenly surrounded by a group of schoolgirls, their eyes full of innocence and curiosity. Yes, what is it? Adam had to look way down as he towered over the schoolgirls by a big margin. Their chirpy, melodious laughter filled the air as they bombarded him with questions. Since they hadn't seen someone like him in the school corridors before, they immediately knew that he must be a brother or relative of one of their classmates. In their innocent eyes, he looked mature compared to the boys of their class, and it was attractive to them. The boys of their class just looked with jealousy in their eyes. However, before Adam could answer any of the questions, he felt a tug on his hand and turned to see Alice angrily pulling him away from the schoolgirls, puffing and red in the face. "I left you alone for a moment." Alice huffed in anger. Adam scratched the back of his head and asked. "They came to me. I didn't do anything." "Right, right." Alice looked at him with a pout. "You must have been happy, though. Being popular." With a shoulder shrug, Adam word. "They're just kids in my eyes." "Am I too?" Alice asked, her face turning redder by the moment. "Yes." Adam tilted his head. Alice kicked him in the shin and stormed away back to her friends with tears in her eyes. "Ouch!" Adam looked at his leg and then at Alice, who was walking away. "That hurt." While Alice was of adult age, and their age gap was just a couple of years, he always saw her as that little kid who liked to play with dolls. However, he couldn't help but remember Alice's future, her death and the pain that came from losing her. "I acted blindly towards her feelings, but the way Sarah spoke to me after her funeral, it seems like she never forgot me while I forgot her because my life circled around mortal online." He felt like it was heading again in the same direction as in the past. He didn't want that to happen. "I don't want to lose her again." He put his hands in his pockets and kicked a small rock that was lying on the ground. The rock rolled a few meters away before coming to a stop. With steady and strong steps, he walked over to the grassy hills where the three young women were sitting. Laura and Raina were wondering what was going on with Alice, who stayed quiet and sad-faced. "Alice." Adam walked over to her, but she ignored him and looked down at her hands in her lap. Laura and Raina stayed tight-lipped, realizing that something must have happened between them. Adam crouched in front of her and softened his voice while talking to her. "Alice, the next event is about to start." "I don't care," Alice said. "I am going home. We're not alone in this relay. We're participating with 2 others. You can find someone to replace me," Alice said. "Laura or Raina can replace me." Laura and Raina exchanged looks. They had never seen Alice like this before, who was usually chirpy and cheerful. Adam looked at her in sadness and whispered, "Nobody can replace you." Hearing that, Alice's ears perked up as she felt like those words held pain and loneliness that seemed to have come from decades of buried emotions. Adam offered his hand to her and said, "I only want to do this with you." Alice looked at the hand and softly grabbed it. "Fine, but in one condition." "What is it?" "If we win, you'll do whatever I say." Alice looked at him with a pink blush spread across her cheeks. "Deal. Deal." Adam smiled and helped her to her feet. A school's bell rang across the sports fields, and then the announcer's voice came. It was telling that the next event was about to start. It was a relay race 4x 100 meters, but each team had 2 females and 2 males. "Good luck." Raina and Laura cheered them on. Adam and Alice headed to the starting line and joined up with 2 other members of their team, who also managed to get a bronze medal from another running event, so the team wasn't that bad. After sharing a few words, they went in their own ways and walked to their starting positions, stretching and warming up for the race. Risa, a young woman from Alice's class, was their starter. She had some sports experience and managed to get a bronze medal in the women's 100-meter dash. The second runner was her partner in other team-based events, Quill, and he won bronze in the men's 200-meter dash. While he was more of an endurance runner, he was still pretty quick on his feet. Then, as their third runner, Alice, who was athletic in her own right. She didn't participate in other running events and only took part in the 3-legged race so far, where she got bronze. With Adam. And, as the anchor, Adam shook his legs loose and did some final stretches. He wasn't much of a sportsman, but he had trained tirelessly for the past year, whether it was running, push UPS, or lifting weights. He was pretty confident in his own speed. On the line beside his own, Marcus looked deadly cold as he did some stretches. After the embarrassing 3-legged race, he wanted to win this one. He wanted to crush the person that was standing on the left line. His team was most likely the best one. His partner from the three-legged race won the gold medal in the women's 100-meter dash, and the two other people in their team were silver medalists in other running events. I will win. Marcus turned to Adam and shouted this time around. I'll crush you. Who? Ignoring the taunts coming from near him, Adam slapped his hands at his thighs. My body, you better not fail me. Runners get ready. The announcer's voice sounded. At the starting line, Risa twirled the baton in her hand, slightly nervous as she always was. Before the start. Because she was the starter, she had to run the curve, and she wasn't very experienced in that position, but when she looked next to her, she didn't really recognize any of them that might be faster than her. Except one, ponytail girl who had beaten her in the 100-meter dash and got a silver medal. She was part of the same team as Marcus. Risa knew that beating that team was impossible, and that team was pretty unfair. Every other team had someone that wasn't a student, like a father, brother, or some relative. Most of them were in the race for fun and hadn't properly done any sports in years. I'll need to make a big gap immediately to others. As long as I am second when it's Quill's turn, I'll be fine with that. I don't know how quick Alice is, but she will most likely lose positions, and our anchor is Adam. He looks nice. I believe he can hold his own weight in this race and get us a medal, at least. All right, the race starts. The announcer's voice sounded. Risa, and every starter running went into their running positions. They just waited for the pistol to signal the start. It didn't take long. Bang! And just like that, the race started.